Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Jeremy with a little bit more Baldur's Gate. We've been reading books, honestly, for like the last 30 minutes, and we're probably gonna keep reading some more because I really like the lore for this game. So now we have the History of the North Part 3, Recent History of the North. In the waning summer months of 1367, an immense orc horde descended from the spine of the world, intent on winding its way south into the trade lands of the north. These forces of orcs, led by King Grenier, Granieri, Grenier, I like Grenier, surged its way south between the Moonwood and the Coldwood, stopping just outside the Citadel of Many Arrows. King Obald, orc ruler of the Citadel of Many Arrows, was terrified at the prospect of another orc horde, despite the fact that he knew they should be working together against the humans of the north and the spawn of Hellgate Keep. His tribal shamans, however, had been predicting a treacherous fall of the citadel, and they'd told the king that he'd be deposed by other orcs.
Should we be doing something useful with this time?
No, Jahira, we should not be. Cease and desist your plattering. Thus, it was a dark day when King Grenier and his horde of 150,000 orcs appeared on the plains outside the citadels of Many Arrows. King Obold announced to his followers that this horde had been sent to dislodge them from their home and send them out to be scavengers among the plains. He vowed that, as Grumpsh as his witness, the Citadel of Many Arrows would slaughter these treacherous orcs like elves during a festival. For 4 months, the 40,000 orcs within the citadel held their ground. Assault after assault was mounted against the high walls of the garrison, but the attacking orcs were losing far more than the defenders. Still, the living conditions within the walls, never too good to begin with, created losses of their own. The battle for the Citadel of Many Arrows culminated during the first week of Uktar. As another light blanket of snow sought to bury the gathered orcs, King Grenier threw his entire remaining army at the citadel, bursting its gates and pitting orc against orc in a flurry of swords. As the two orc kings sought one another out along the rampart, the citadel began to burn. The orcs that survived the battle still speak of the extraordinary prowess of the two kings as they battled one another before their troops. Finally, however, King Obald ran Grenier through with his longsword, but Obald was severely wounded by the time Grenier had breathed his last breath. The orcs erupted into battle once again, and no one was quite certain what became of King Obald. It was through the smoke and snow that the victors of the conflict emerged. The dwarves of Clan Mooncrown, along with a contingent of troops from Silvery Moon. God dang it. This wasn't your story, you buttholes. Charging in through the shattered gates, these new attackers quickly routed the exhausted orcs of the citadel, sending them scurrying off into the wilderness. King Emiris Warcrown now rules the Citadel of Many Arrows, though the dwarves now call the city by its old name of Felbar. Most in the north still tend to refer to the city as the Citadel, however, waiting to see if it can withstand the next orc horde. King Warcrown has put out a call for all dwarfs to help defend the citadel, and news of a new vein of gold and silver is spreading rapidly through dwarven communities. That's cool. That's cool lore. I like that. Alright, what else do we got? History of the North, the Elven Exodus. This era left behind elven strongholds ripe for pillaging by humans and orcs. When elves chose to leave the north and travel to Evermeet, their works quickly disappeared, leaving only places like the Old Road and a ruined port in the High Forest to mark Erlen's passing. And yet, it was not only the elves who would disappear from their long-held homes. The human nation of Netheril also stood on the brink of history. Doom for Netheril came in the form of a desert, devouring the narrow sea and spreading to fill its banks with dry dust and blowing sand. Legend states that when the great wizards of Netheril realized their land was lost, they abandoned it and their countrymen, fleeing to all corners of the world and taking the secrets of wizardry with them. More likely, it was a slow migration that began 3,000 years ago and reached its conclusion 1,500 years later. Whatever the truth, wizards no longer dwelled in Netheril. To the north, the once majestic dwarven stronghold of Delzoun fell upon hard days. Then the orcs struck. Orcs have always been foes in the north, surging out of their holes every few tens of generations when their normal haunts can no longer support their burgeoning numbers. This time they charged out of their caverns in the spine of the world, poured out of the abandoned mines in the Grey Peaks, screamed out of the lost dwarf holds in the Ice Mountains, raged forth from crypt complexes in the Nether Mountains, and stormed upwards from the bowels of the High Moon Mountains. Never before or since has there been such an outpouring of orcs. Delzoun crumbled before this onslaught and was driven in on itself. Netheril, without its mages, was wiped from the face of history. The Erlon elves alone withstood the onslaught, and with the aid of the Trents of Turlang and other unnamed allies, were able to stave off the final days of their land for yet a few centuries more. In the east, Erlon built the fortress of Askelhorn, and turned it over to the refugees from Netheril as Netherese followers built the town of Kars in the High Forest. The fleeing Netherese founded Lork and Loudwater. Others wandered the mountains, hills, and moors north and west of the High Forest, becoming ancestors of the Uthgard and founders of Silvery Moon, Everlund, and Sundabar. Cool stuff. Cool stuff. There's so much lore in this game. Man. What's up? Real quick. Okay, and that lets us actually read that lore without getting arrested by the cops. So that's cool. Ah, we can come into these other houses from the other side. So let's do that. Gotta explore all the places in Baragost, right? Why not? Let's talk to this guy. He's gonna complain to us. What are you doing in here? This is my home. I suppose it doesn't really matter if you come in or not. My family has already left for Baldur's Gate to stay with relatives, and I shall soon follow. I'll not feel safe here until we're all within its great gates. Enter as you will. There's not left for you to steal. Oh, is that true? Imowen, have at it. So far, he's right. There's been jack shit. Aha! You fool, there was a book left. History of the Dragon Coast. The history of the Dragon Coast is the history of money, particularly the darker side of the coin. Situated on the main trade routes between the Inner Sea and the Sword Coast, these lands never coalesced into a solid, coherent nation like Cormyr or Symbia. Instead, small petty city-states have risen and fallen, powered by greed and the most powerful merchant or pirate faction of the day. As a result, the Dragon Coast has always been the home of the smuggler, the pirate, the rogue, and the hired killer. It has been the place where those seeking to skirt the laws of more civilized nations to the north make landfall. It is here that the Red Wizards gain access to the Western Heartlands, and where the Cult of the Dragon launches its plots to the south. And it is here that the independent secret societies and assassins' guilds have their greatest power. The last semblance of organized resistance to this trend was the reign of Verovan, last of the kings of Westgate. The monarchy of Westgate had long worked closely with the various mercantile and pirate factions, but Verovan attempted to stem the growing power of the merchant houses and petty lords. His sudden and mysterious death without acceptable heirs in 1248 DR opened the door for much of what now is commonplace in the Dragon Coast: corruption and treachery. It should be noted that while Verovan's name is still venerated in these lands, better known is Imerk, the greatest of the Inner Sea pirates, a brash and flamboyant rogue who united a pirate fleet beneath him and ruled from 1164 DR to his death in 1201 DR. Such is the Dragon Coast, that good people are venerated, but the power of darker rogues is imitated. That's pretty cool. Lock. And it's locked with nothing in it. Fantastic. I mean, the dude did say there wasn't really anything left. The only thing left was a book. Oh, fair enough, man. You win this time. But guess what? I like knowledge. So, joke's on you. Kinda, I guess. I don't really. Okay, Imowen. How about it? History of the North 1, the first flowering. For millennia, gold elves dwelt in Illifarn, where Waterdeep now stands, and Erlon along the river Shining. For their ornate forest cities, they traded with the emerging human nations like Netheril and Ilusk and repulsed the attacks of the goblin races. Meanwhile, dwarven clans united as the nation of Delzoun, named for the dwarf who forged the Union. The nation, existing primarily underground, extended from the Ice Mountains to the Nether Mountains. Silver Moon Pass was its western border, and the Narrow Sea its eastern shore. Orcs came from north of the spine of the world, but were turned back in great slaughter by the elves. To this day, this is the homeland and stronghold for orcs and similar races. Cool. Short but sweet little history book. Another book, History of the Moon Sea. Didn't we already read this one? Yes, we already read History of the Moon Sea. Okie dokie.
This way.
This way. Not being successful at all with those lockpicks. Alright, what else we got? Next up, the Elven Exodus. We already read this one. Right? Already read that one? History of the North 7. 1368, Year of the Banner. This is a new one. As the dwarves settled in for the winter in their reclaimed city of Felbar, a group of Zentarum-sponsored adventurers broke into Great Worm Cavern, slaying Elrim the Wise, shaman leader of the Great Worm tribe. As the tribe's warriors descended into the ranks of the evil adventurers, teleportation magic spirited at least 3 of those responsible, as well as a vast amount of treasure stolen from Elrim, to safety. According to Themrin, the tribe's present shaman, Elrim, promised to watch over the tribe in spirit now that my mortal form is destroyed. Despite the reassuring words of Elrim, the tribe suffered through an oppressive winter that included heavy snow, scarce game, and low morale. Trusted visitors to the barbarian encampment report that Themrin and Gweshin, Iron Hand Talistars, are wearing some form of armor made from the scales of Elrim. This use of their former shaman's body as protection was supposedly ordained through a dream vision. The armor appears as little more than a supple leather armor, but seems to deflect blows and protect as well as full plate armor. Esme reported a drastic rise in the number of troll attacks in the Evermoors, and various sources confirm that something is driving the trolls out of the moors. Whatever is behind the trolls' exodus is destined to remain a mystery for the remainder of the year, as adventuring parties expend themselves against the never-ending supply of trolls that are fleeing the bog. In the most surprising move of the year, the Blue Bear tribe, led by the shaman chieftain Tanta Hagara, marched on the fiend-ridden fortress of Hellgate Keep. While a brief struggle for political control of the city was reported by various sources, Tanta Hagara emerged as the new ruler of the city. Interesting. That read less like a history book and more like a newspaper, right? History bork.
I've done had enough of this.
Okay, so we've been through all of that stuff. Let's grab this real quick. History of Tethir. Did I read this one? I did not. Where did this come from? For the past 1500 years, Tethir has had a single strong royal family ruling with absolute power. When a king died or became incapacitated, his oldest son took the throne. As the family trees of those close to power became more intertwined and complicated, there were the inevitable wars of succession and bickering over which second cousin was the true heir to the throne. Civil wars were brief, however, and once the fighting was over, the system returned to normal until the next major dispute in a few hundred years or so. The established recurring cycle was broken 10 years ago. The current ruling family had been in power for over 350 years, so long that they had dropped their own family name centuries ago, no one even remembers it now, and simply called themselves Tethir. King Aelmander IV was comfortably ruling from Castle Tethir, and the country seemed happy enough, but there was a broad current of dissatisfaction among the people of Tethir. Non-humans were forbidden by law to own land, and since most rights and privileges accorded citizens were based on land ownership, they became second-class citizens as well. Things were especially bad for elves, who were driven deep into the forest of Tethir by royal armies. Aelmander IV took land away from the rightful owners and gave it to nobles who promised larger contributions to the royal treasury. These social and economic inequities, coupled with the harsh winters and bad harvests in a row, made the time ripe for a change. It takes more than a couple of lousy winters to depose a king, however. It doesn't, actually. It absolutely does not. It takes treachery as well. In the case of the fall of House Tethir, it took an ambitious general and an impatient royal heir. Prince Aelmander grew tired of waiting for the robust Aelmander IV to make room for him, so he struck a deal with General Nashram Sharbanath, commander of the king's largest army. While Sharbanath marched his army towards Tethir, bringing along a sizable group of angry peasants recruited from the promise of land reform, the would-be Aelmander V downplayed alarming reports from the king's spies and advisors, silencing the most persistent permanently through murder or exile. By the time Sharbanath's army arrived and laid siege to Castle Tethir, it was too late for loyalists to help. As Sharbanath launched a direct assault on the castle, using the expendable peasants as shock troops, a handful of elite soldiers let in a secret entrance by the prince would eliminate key guards and open the gates. At the same time, the prince, one of the few people allowed to see the king directly, would murder his father. A fire set by the elite troops would destroy evidence of treachery. The general and the prince would emerge from the conflagration and announce a new joint government. The plan. Everyone should see this coming to an end poorly. The plan was executed perfectly, but only up to a point. Sharbanath double-crossed the prince. Who'd have fucking thought? His men were much too efficient in setting the castle ablaze, and Prince Aelmander, along with most of his fellow conspirators, died horribly in the fire. At about the same time, a spy planted on the general's inner staff by the equally duplicitous Aelmander murdered the general and dissolved his body with a powerful acid before anyone could come to his aid. God. Oh shit, y'all. To make matters worse, everyone had underestimated the resentment the people felt for the royal family. Once Castle Tethir began to fall, there was no holding back the mob. In one night, the proudest, strongest castle in all the country was reduced to a smoking ruin. Everything of value, fine tapestries, plates and silverware, furniture, jewelry, weapons, clothes, armor, paintings, statues, and so on, was either stolen, burned, or just ripped apart and stomped into the dust. As news of the fall of the royal family spread, so did the chaos. In what is now known as the 10 Black Days of Elaint, anyone known or even suspected of blood connection to the royal family was put to the sword. This led to some darkly humorous moments, as social climbers who had bragged just a week before of being a sixth cousin twice removed of a royal aunt tried in vain to convince an angry mob that they were only kidding. I was just kidding, bro. The nobles, who were the biggest supporters of the royal family, also came under attack, and some baronial, I don't know how to say that word, baronial keeps fell. Local leaders who had adequately distanced themselves from the Tethir family, or were popular enough or feared and strong enough, survived. These surviving nobles became the initial players in the fight to decide the fate of Tethir. One thing was certain, any leader or type of government that too closely resembled rule under the Tethirs would not be accepted. Royalist became a dirty word in Tethir society. The power struggle continues to this day, and there's no sign of it ending anytime soon. Alright, that's pretty intense. Okay, so, another place that is locked.
I'm gone.
I'm gone. Are you gone?
I've done had enough of this.
Just gonna ignore the lady. Do what we can. Talk to the lady. Hey, lady.
Yeah?
Oh, you startled me. I'm not used to strangers because traveling is so dangerous now. Please don't linger too long here. The children are leery of anyone they don't know, and 'tis hard enough to keep them calm when there's just me around. If only my husband hadn't gone to work in the mines in Nashkel. That's some bad news for you. Alright. Easy peasy. Check this. Himmelin! Do it! Nothing, nothing. Nothing. I feel like I've done a bunch of voice work today. Like, holy crap. It never ends. History of the North, Part 2. The Crown Wars. Alright. What do we got? Humans immigrated in bands from the Shining Sea up to the Sword Coast. They became seafarers, striking out across the waves to the Moonshays, Mintarn, Ruathim, and the Northern Islands. Elves engaged in an unceasing war against each other, with the humans and orcs taking over the resulting ruins. Perhaps the greatest calamity to befall the fair folk was the Dark Disaster, a killing magic that took the form of a dark burning cloud. It enshrouded the kingdom of Myeritar, and when it faded away some months later, not an elf lived, nor were trees left, only an open, blasted moor, the High Moor. All was not dark for the elves. Although in retreat, as barbarian humans and orc hordes grew in strength, their power rose in the elven court and in Everesca, remaining a stronghold to this day. They conceived of cooperation between dwarves, kindly humans, and other elves for mutual survival against orcs, marauding humans, and the tides of beasts, ogres, bugbears, trolls, goblins, gnolls, and other non-human creatures, led by the rising power of giants. Astonishingly, in at least 3 places, the Fallen Kingdoms and the cities of Silvery Moon and Myth Draenor, they succeeded with shining grace. To the east, on the sandy shores of the calm and shining Narrow Sea, human fishing villages grew into small towns and then joined together as the nation of Netheril. Sages believed the fishing towns were unified by a powerful human wizard who had discovered a book of great magic power that had survived from the days of thunder, a book that legends call the Nether Scrolls. That seems the Narrow Sea Scrolls, the Nether Scrolls, the Dead Sea Scrolls. That seems interesting. In sea caves, right? Under this nameless wizard and those who followed, Netheril rose in power and glory, becoming both the first human in the land in the north, first human land in the north, and the most powerful. Some say this discovery marked the birth of human wizardry, since before then mankind had only shamans and witch doctors. For over 3,000 years, Netheril dominated the north, but even its legendary wizards were unable to stop their final doom. Interesting, interesting. Cool, cool, cool. Money. Ooh, there was a person.
This way.
There's
I've done had
the
enough
boy.
of this.
Hello, boy. I'm not gonna talk, boy. I'm just gonna leave. I don't want to have a conversation with you.
Oh, you bet.
Okie dokie. What is here?
Yep.
Again, we have a boy.
This way.
Just a boy.
Mother
Hello, boy.
said not to
Ah,
talk
you
to
scared me.
strangers.
I wasn't taking anything. Honest, I was just checking on the house. That's all. Oh, you're doing the same thing as me. Someone's got to watch over the place because I'm sure they'll come back. The gray carts only went to Baldur's Gate to visit, and they should be back already. I'm gonna wait right here until they do. All right, you do you, man. 86 gold. Heck yeah, I'll take that. That's some nice money.
This way.
It's not that nice, but still. Who the fuck is this guy? Fucking squatters in the house. I swear, who is this guy? Can't talk to him? Okay. That's pretty funny.
This way.
Right.
Alright, so let's explore up here and... area all uncovered. I don't think there is anything out here, but it's worth checking. You never know. Someone might be hanging out here off in the corner of the map. Like how you can tell the difference between the fog and the blackness. The darkness, the void, the edge of the map. That is, and that is, that is. Do need to check those. Let's go here. We'll go down and up and around. Someone go check that. We are almost... I'm being probably a little more meticulous than I will be now, compared to the entire run. But right now the game is still fresh in my mind because, you know, it's been a very long time since I've played, so right now everything's like fresh and new, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this, oh, this is so much fun. But eventually I'll get tired of reading absolutely everything, and I'll be like, okay, we found another book. Fuck it. But until then... Alright, quick save. Let's go inside. What do we got? Oh, it's locked. Alright, Imowen.
I'm gone.
Get to it. Pick that lock. Nice. Get inside.
I've done had enough of this.
You done had enough of this. Dang, lockpick failed. Lockpick failed?
What's this? Yep.
Yep.
I've done had enough of this.
Go inside. Go inside.
This way.
Jeez. Not been that difficult. Oh my goodness. Imowen. Get up your lockpicking.
This way.
Oh. Hey, money. Very nice. Okie dokie.
This
Onwards to the next house.
Right.
Actually, the next place is Feldspar. Oh, I should check and see if Feldspar is the place that has the book. Let me go over here to him. What do you have to offer? Yeah, he has the History of the Fateful Coin. So we'll actually sell him the History of the Tethir. Ooh, he buys bandit scalps. We'll buy the History of the Fateful Coin. I wonder if he is the only place we should really sell bandit scalps to. Want that apparently. We holding on to anything else? Dumb. Jade ring. All that stuff. Onyx ring. That stuff. All of this we'll give over to Nira for now. Did I actually buy the History of the Fateful Coin? I did. Okay, so we're done here. This will just drop. I think give these all over to Nira real quick. That, what is this? Potion of Agility. Set it to 18, affecting armor class and missile attack adjustment. What is her current? Her dexterity is already 18, so we should give that to someone who is less dexterous. Hers is 17. Mine's 16. 13, 16. Maybe to Jaheira. Jaheira might be a good target for that. Okay. Nope. Wrong thing. Right there. Okay. So let's pop over. We know, I don't remember which one is Firebrand or Firebeard, but he's one of these. I think he's the blue one. Blue
You
one?
bet.
Hey, there he is. Firebeard, here's your book. Hi, you are generous to an old man, so I will be generous in turn. Let me give you another book in exchange. It is a touch darker than what you have given me, but I get a sense that you may enjoy it nonetheless. So we got 300 experience, we gained reputation, and we gained the history of the Dead 3, as well as a scroll case, which is super useful. That lets us shove a bunch of scrolls into a case. I love it. And I think we're actually going to go ahead and end this episode here. I will check you all next time.